And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com, brought to you in part by Yahoo DFS. We'll get to more on that momentarily. Dan Strafford, Dave Lockren along with you on this Friday morning, an 8-game NBA slate. But more importantly, Dave, we get Carmelo Anthony back in our lives. Are you pumped? Pumped?
Yeah, actually, you know what? Let me read. Yes, I am pumped because the Sixers didn't pick him up. That's the last thing we needed.
I mean, if the Knicks were really tanking, they should have just brought him back.
I don't really understand it, honestly. I don't.
They need a power forward. That's all I've read, is that with Layman out and the glaring need on that team is a power forward who can score. So
yeah, I guess. I mean, well, have fun with him.
Yep. What would you? I mean, what does he score? 12 points a game? 14? What do you think a legitimate season?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're super weak at the position. There's no question there. But ever since Collins went down, it's been an issue. I don't know if that's your answer. I guess we'll find out. Though, right?
Layman's on a different team, right? Yeah, Zach Collins, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out. So he's supposedly joining the team this weekend on their trip. Don't think he's going to play, obviously, but we will see how that all turns out. We do have 8 games on the slate. As always, we'll use DraftKings as our jumping off point. And we'll talk a little bit more about Yahoo's offerings after shooting guard, just to talk about what they have in their lobby for the weekend, including NFL and NBA, and maybe get some quick takes on some price points over there as we roll through. But a reminder, as always, we have tons of content available for you in front of the paywall, I should say, which is YouTube, and free content on the website, Awesemo.com. That is the NBA strategy show. You have all the NFL strategy shows. Dave is heavily involved there. Then you get, of course, the deeper dive and live before lock at 5 and 6 p.m. Eastern, respectively. Don't forget also, if you're looking for content and more Dave in your life, and who isn't really, let's be honest, Sirius 210 X, Justine, Sirius 210 XM 87, was it 5 to 7 on Saturday, 7 to 9 on Sunday.
That's right.
Dave and Manuel Laura bring Manny. I don't know why I said that, but Manny bring you Awesemo Radio over there on Sirius. And on Sunday, a fun show when they get to talk through the Sunday games and then go into Sunday night football. So we dive in here with these 8 games. We start at point guard. James Harden is 12-3, so that price point continues to creep up. We saw DK at the start of the year really suppress prices. Now with Harden with, let's see, 4 out of his 5 last games, 70-plus DraftKings points, 73.5, 74.5, 75, 62, 71.5. The rebounds have been scattered in there. The assists have been scattered in there, but the points are coming in gigantic buckets here, Dave. We talked about it a lot last year, and it seemed like one of the shortcomings in Harden's game was he wasn't getting to the free throw line as much as he did the previous season. As the year went on, it seemed he was getting there more and more. But this year, he is in double-digit free throws seemingly every game without question. That's a big upside for him. But is this price point just too far to reach as a play this early on without some extreme value available to us?
Yeah, I mean, he leads the league in free throw attempts. Last season, he had a better year at the free throw line in terms of getting there than the season before that.
Right.
So, what's that?
Right. I had my years backwards.
Yeah, no. You were right. It started off where he wasn't getting to the line, and there was talk of, because they changed it, basically the Harden rule, and then he found a way around it. So I'm saying he still ended up attempting 11 free throws per game. This year he's getting to the line 15.3 times per game, more than any player in the league by a pretty wide margin. It's a really expensive price point, and you ever want to play him in tournaments? Sure. I don't think you need to get there in cash. It's the same slate where you have much cheaper LeBron James against Sacramento. Now, of course, we'll want to see what happens with Anthony Davis, but he is expected to play. But yeah, you have LeBron James against Sacramento, Karl Anthony Towns against Washington. That's an excellent spot. Joel Embiid, tough spot, but he's inexpensive, and when you look at his actual production this season, just on a fantasy point per game standpoint, you're like, oh, wow, he hasn't been very good. And then you consider he's averaging 1.72 fantasy points per minute. So, like, for instance, he played 35 minutes last game, 61 fantasy points. 36, 56, 33, 66. Every time he's crossed 30 minutes, he's got at least 55 fantasy points. it's that obviously plays pretty heavily into it. What are his minutes going to look like? I think they're big minutes in this game against OKC. So there are a lot of good plays here. Sabonis against a bad Houston defense. Andre Drummond against Charlotte. Of course, Blake Griffin should be in action here, but still, even throw Bradley Beal into the mix. Not saying any of these guys equate to what you're getting from James Harden, but at the same time, there's a lot of good alternatives. And by the way, I know he's had some rough games recently, but Russell Westbrook, it's crazy to me that his assist totals are so low. It's insane. He has 8 assists over his last 3 games. That's nuts. But if he plays, I know he's going to sit one of these back-to-backs. If he plays at 8,400, I'm still buying in.
Yeah, I think that's the great point. And obviously the Q tag because of the back-to-back, as mentioned, but 8,400 is just a dirt cheap price tag for the upside that Westbrook has. Where else at the top end do you see yourself going? We've seen D'Angelo Russell obviously become a usage monster for the Golden State Warriors. Tough matchup against Boston. Ben Simmons price tag tends to be depressed at 7,200 comparatively to what his obvious upside is here against OKC. Potentially Terry Rozier coming off a career high in points is 6,600. Anybody stand out to you, or do you feel like this is going to be a little bit more feeling out as the day goes on at point guard?
Yeah, I mean, I think on an 8-game slate, you're going to have a decent amount of quality options here. We already talked about Harden, and Russell Westbrook too. Like if Westbrook plays, I'm going to have a tough time not having interest there. It's just too inexpensive. I don't see him. I know he's playing alongside Harden, but it's really tough to see him staying down this long. I'd be curious to know what's going on with him too. It just doesn't seem natural. That last game, I mean, he shot 6 for 20, so there's that. But 2 rebounds, 2 assists. I don't know. I've been watching him, and he just clearly looks a lot more passive. It's kind of concerning. But D'Angelo Russell here is interesting. Boston's defense has given up some pretty big games to shooters. And Russell's just been absolutely dominant with Steph Curry out of the lineup. Draymond Green returning doesn't mean a thing. So, I would expect big minutes in this game, assuming it's not a blowout. But, we're not going to prepare for a blowout. 8-point favorites. Boston is on the road. But that price on D'Angelo Russell seems really friendly at 8K. Just monster ceiling, being that he is the lone guy on this team that can really run away with it. You don't have another player that can do that. And no, I don't include Alec Burks as one of those guys. But Kemba Walker in a similar price point too, against a bottom-ranked Warriors defense, dead last in the league for good reason. So there's that. And then Ben Simmons, man, it's been a disappointing fantasy season for sure from Ben Simmons. You're not getting what you need from him. And I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine that Richardson is the reason why. And even with Horford off the court the other game, with Embiid off the court, he's just been very pedestrian. And nothing drives me crazier than seeing him drive into the paint with a full head of steam in transition and just stop and kick it out. Like, you obviously have the size and speed to split defenders. And he's not doing it right now. So it's disappointing to see. I still think he's in play at that price, but I'd be lying if I said I was confident in Ben Simmons, because I'm not. I'll say this much, though, is Isaiah Thomas against Minnesota. He played 24, then 20 minutes, then 29 and 33 in that 7-point loss to the Boston Celtics. I love seeing that. Expect to see a lot of assist opportunities here and a decent amount of usage from Thomas. It's never going to be like his Boston or Sacramento days, especially not playing alongside Bradley Beal. But I think there's a serious opportunity for some quality numbers. And at the same price on the other side of this game, I would expect, maybe I'm wrong, but I would expect Teague to be reinserted into the starting lineup. He was very good in 23 minutes off the bench last game out. And it looked like he was on pace to close that, but then they ran away with the score and he came off. So there's some good value at point guard from top to bottom. I like this position quite a bit.
I would ask the question, do you have a line on the Washington game as of yet? I'm seeing it on one website, but not sure I can trust that website.
So Minnesota -7, 240 total.
It is 240. Okay, you are seeing 240. Got it.
Yeah,
all right, that's what I see as well. Okay.
And by the way, if Westbrook sits, I suppose you could look towards like an Austin Rivers here, but that
I've done
that's
that a
in.
few too many times over the past week, so I don't.
Yeah, I know it's not a particularly fun feeling, but he's there if you need him.
Though I said it on the pod on Thursday morning, I did appreciate him trying to get his father teed up because I'm sure that will go really well at Thanksgiving dinner where when they sit down. Hey, Austin, pass the cranberries. How about you trying to get me teed up? Let's talk some shooting guard, and then again, we'll hit on some of the Yahoo stuff after this position. You mentioned Brad Beal. Beal, obviously, with John Wall not in the lineup, has been the focal point for the Wizards. You do have IT2 who can score a bit, but Beal on the year at 32.3 usage percentage. Good for top 10. What is that? He's in 8th place overall to date on the year. Still kind of in the small sample size region, but good enough numbers to run against the field. Clearly has some upside here at a price point that isn't breaking the bank at 8,500 against the T-Wolves in a high total game. The other side of this one, want to get your take on Andrew Wiggins. I know a lot of this is dependent on Jeff Teague and Wiggins being more of a primary ball handler, but all of a sudden assists. This is a guy that we talked about many times over. There's nothing else to him. He just scores, and he doesn't score that often or on a regular basis in games. All of a sudden the assists over 5, I think 30 in his past 5 games. Do you trust Wiggins at this price point? Do you think this is going to be a continued growth that we can see him as a trustworthy DFS option?
Yeah, if you go back and look at the last 4 deeper dives I've done and look at my Twitter feed, you'll see that. And yeah, I'll take credit for this. I've been talking about Wiggins being a changed player before people were talking about Wiggins being a changed player. Okay. If you actually look at some of the numbers, they're not going to lie to you. He's been a lot more involved as a passer, initiating the offense. These are big things. I asked Rick Kamla of NBA TV. Well, he's SiriusXM NBA Radio now, was NBA TV. 2 weeks ago, I said, Rick, are you believing? Are you buying into Wiggins yet? Is this finally? I said, I believe this is finally the maturation process that we've been waiting to see for like 6 years now. Could it all come crashing down? Sure. But I just think this is a more confident Wiggins that is playing differently and that is actually taking control of the offense. That said, if Teague is back in the lineup, I'm not paying this much for him.
Okay.
Back in the starting lineup, because we still haven't seen what he looks like alongside Teague as a starter. So think about it this way. While I definitely believe that we're seeing a different brand of Andrew Wiggins, hopefully to stay, also consider you've got Bradley Beal at a very similar price point. You've got D'Angelo Russell at a $300 discount. Donovan Mitchell against Memphis, against a bad Memphis D, a team that's playing at an elevated pace. So as much as I like Wiggins, I definitely think there are reasons to not feel great about him at this price if Teague's in the starting lineup.
Right there with you. And I think Wiggins is still only 24 years old. And I get like an NBA years that is not young per se, but it's insane that he's been in the league as long as he has and still could have some growth potential to him as his career matures here over the next year or so. What about the mid-tier? Anybody stand out? We've gotten to know the burgeoning star of Devontae Graham there in Charlotte, taking some time away from Terry Rozier in the backcourt. He's 7K. Healed Bogdanovich, both Sacramento Kings here. Do have a very solid time out by Bogdanovich last time, 53.25 DraftKings points, 25 points, 10 assists, 3 rebounds, 4 steals, a great stat line. Lots of run there. Gets the Lakers in this matchup. Anybody in the mid-tier stand out to you?
So I mentioned in the deep dive on Tuesday to temper expectations on Buddy Hield and look towards Bogdanovich as your top player from the Sacramento Kings. And there's a reason for that. Very simple reason. Buddy Hield has had plenty of minutes with De'Aaron Fox off the court. You take Bagley off the court too. That's fine. That actually, I'm pulling it up right now. Bogdanovich was the cover boy of this one. Funny looking fella. He's really not, actually. He's a pretty normal looking guy. So just quickly, Bogdanovich should benefit most on the Kings from Fox's absence. He's sporting a 29% usage rate, 28% assist rate, 1.13 fantasy points per minute with Fox and Bagley off the floor since the start of last season. He's been even more impressive this season across 117 minutes with both sideline, 30% usage, 31% assists. And he's averaging 6.2 potential assists per 36. Good for second most on the Kings behind Fox. Then italicized. I prefer Bogdanovich to Hield in cash games and tournaments at a significant discount. And I'm skipping around here, but here's the thing. Even if he doesn't start and he comes off the bench, he's going to be their de facto point guard, right? He's going to see good minutes. And this game, I would expect to see a decent amount of scoring. Now, it's a tougher matchup against LA, no question. But Buddy Hield just isn't going to handle a facilitator role. He's not going to, again, initiate the offense. He's not a playmaker. Those things come pretty heavily into play. So you lose Fox, sure. Buddy Hield gets some additional shots up, but he doesn't do much else other than that. And we saw that illustrated perfectly against Portland. He got up 21 shots, but he only shot 7 for 21 and finished with 26 fantasy points. I think Bogdanovich is a different player in that you're going to start seeing some really solid numbers from him. He had 10 assists in that game, 25 points. But at this price point, that makes him a whole lot tougher to get to.
Yep.
If you can get to him on sites where he's discounted, I'd feel a whole lot better about that. But a big time increase in price is tough. I'll finish with this. If you're asking me, Buddy Hield at 67 or Buddy Hield at 68 or Bogdanovich at 67, I'd still go Bogdanovich at 67 over basically an identically priced Hield because I think he has a higher floor.
Bogdanovich on Yahoo, $22 to Hield's 25.
Yeah, that's not bad. I'd be okay with that.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on those price points. And again, tons of Yahoo content available on Awesemo.com. We'll get to a little bit more after shooting guard. Anybody else here worthwhile? You made mention of Josh Richardson just in comparison to Ben Simmons earlier. You have Marcus Smart in a potential plus matchup. Don't know how much upside he has. You have the Culvers and Corey Josephs who have gotten run because of injuries down here. Anybody that you think is worthwhile mentioning or have to keep an eye open for some possible value as we move forward here on Friday?
Yeah, there's not a ton of at value here. We have a lot of good top and mid-range plays at point guard and shooting guard, but not a lot of great stuff. I mean, you can always look towards a Terrence Ross. I think he can get hot. If he plays 28 minutes, you'd probably be satisfied with that. And then just looking at some of the guys that are out, Jeremy Lamb's out, Clint Capella's out. We'll get there. That'll be important and obviously come into play. But other than that, there's not a lot that's going to loom really large whatsoever. And then of course some questionable guys that we'll hit on. But no, if Terrence Ross, if you wanted to roll the dice on him because he's discounted, I get it. But guys like Danny Green, man, once in a while he'll have a solid game. Outside of that, he's just pulling a disappearing act. And I don't know about you, but I wasn't a big fan of Corey Joseph at 3,700. Certainly don't have a whole lot of interest in him now that he's 4,600.
Yeah, right there with you on that. And so as that price point continues to rise, I think you said 3,700 is fine, but he's not a very good basketball player, if I remember correctly. Right. So there's that. Do want to touch on here as we end shooting guard and get ready to roll over to small forward that Yahoo DFS is available to you. We have tons of content over on Awesemo.com, projections, ownership projections, the whole deal. But further, they have a couple of different tournaments this weekend in their baller category. One 200K, one 65K. The 200K is $10 entry. The 65K is a $25 entry. And then, of course, they do have their NBA contests each and every night. It's a 50K baller, 10K to first, $10 entry fee, management fee of 12%, 1,100 places paid. So you get an opportunity to play over there against less sharks and less max entry in some of these tournaments as well. So you can sort of hone your craft, build your bankroll. And if you want to move it over to a DK or a FanDuel, fine. But I will point out again, said it many times, it's a different game over there. So you need to prepare for it, get the projections, get the understanding of how you build a lineup, and not just try to bring over your plays from a DK or a FanDuel because the price points are different. The scoring is a tiny bit. It's mainly like a FanDuel scoring process, but you still want to be aware of all of that. So let's continue on to small forward here. And we get LeBron, obviously, 10-8, gets a matchup with Sacramento. You made the great point before. We have to keep an eye on AD status simply for what LeBron will do in this offense if AD is out.
And a probable Anthony Davis doesn't mean much, you know?
I do know. I'm very acutely aware. Our good buddy Steve Finkelstein, and Steve, if you listen, I hope you're doing well, had made a big deal about not playing DFS outside of the NFL. And yet he's in Slack chat every day asking about plays in the NBA.
He just returned and he joined Awesemo, which is awesome.
Oh, did he like make a triumphant return? Did he say I'm playing again? Like it was a big thing.
I just heard from him out of nowhere, and there we go. I love Steve, man. I'm happy to see him back.
You know, I went to middle school and high school with Steve, and Steve's the reason I joined Fantasy Insiders and how you and I started podcasting together. So he goes down in the good category for me.
And he deleted his Tilt for Steve handle because he said it was too toxic.
Exactly. He's
I was disappointed by that. I like toxicity.
He does it well too, and especially when it comes to Anthony Davis. That is Anthony Davis and Bryce Harper. Just if you ever talk to Steve Fink, those are the two names to bring up and let him go. Small forward though, Tatum, DeRozan. Is there a more boring NBA player than DeMar DeRozan? I love watching him play. I think he plays the game very well, but from a fantasy perspective, his lines just seem so repetitive. And maybe I'm overstating some things here, but just doesn't seem to have that big upside that we may want from him. But 7,300, you have Healed, Bogdanovich, Tobias Harris is at 64, Aaron Gordon at 63. Small forward doesn't necessarily jump off the page as to who you're going to be playing. So who stands out to you?
LeBron James averaged north of 2 fantasy points per minute last game.
Mm-hmm.
Golden State's just really bad, and that game got out of hand quickly, right?
Cheers.
Me. I can do that on podcasts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But,
Mm-hmm.
I
mean, you can do it on the radio, too. It just may not help the career so much. But
you're probably very sick of me by now. LeBron James, though.
I don't live with you, so that's
What's
fine.
that?
I said, I don't live with you, so it's fine.
Yeah. Sick of me would not be the phrase. Let me tell you. How's murderous?
Now, don't accuse me of anything. There are plenty of people in DFS who have said that is my thing, so I don't need that here on the podcast.
Yeah, not you. I'm talking about her.
Yeah.
And you know what? I wouldn't blame her. Like, if I woke up dead, I'd be like, I get it.
I'm point proven, Justine.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the Kings are playing at a crawling pace this year. Pretty crazy. 99 possessions per 48. So Lakers are at 22 possessions per 48. But I have an inkling that this total is not going to be that low. But I don't know if we have one yet. No, we don't. Just want to see real quick because I want to see what's today, the 14th, so the 12th. I want to see what pace they played at with De'Aaron Fox off the court. It'll be interesting. Of course, you know, matchup comes into play and everything. But Kings, still below 100 possessions per 48. They're playing slow, man. But I still think LeBron James is viable here. He's just too good. And, you know, the big thing is, of course, Anthony Davis being out that last game, LeBron James was a lock. But do I still have interest in him? Sure. But I'd say I'd have more interest in Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis is, $1,200 less expensive. That's crazy that he's that much cheaper. It's not like he's been that much worse either. He could go out there and give you 35, 15, and 5 blocks. So, I think Anthony Davis there. Of course, we'll get to power forward in just a second. But I would prefer him over LeBron. We talked about Wiggins. He's got eligibility here, and Simmons too. I think we broke both of them down. If you missed any of it, play it back. Jason Tatum, interesting spot. This dude shot 1 for 18 the other day, which is just crazy. But he's playing big minutes. Like, he's getting the run. I don't know what to make of him. I'm curious to know, though. You live in the Boston area, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the general consensus on Tatum? Are people souring on him a little bit, or are they still 100% bought in?
I think that they're so bought in on this team and the way they're playing to start the year that Tatum doesn't matter. Like they're winning. Stevens is doing what he does. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the only team that they lost to was the Sixers, so I got that. Here's why you should be buying into Tatum 100%. You want to know why?
I would love to.
I'm going to tell you why. Because that pick could have been Markelle Fultz. I mean, think about that, dude. Danny Ainge working that magic. That if they had that number 1 and didn't trade for it, they could have Fultz, and the Sixers could have Jason Tatum right now. Things could look different, let me tell you. But now Fultz is making his triumphant return in Orlando. He's been terrible. So I don't like small forward that much, honestly. It's the value here. I don't think I'd really try to get much. You know, once in a while you're going to get, like I said, once in a while you get a game from Danny Green. I think the same can be said for Troy Brown. His minutes definitely fluctuate, so you don't know when you're going to get those games. Terrence Ross is the same way. I mean, we've seen some really solid games from Terrence Ross off the bench because he's a scorer. And when he gets hot, he's going to start ripping shots off and knocking them down. You know, and he'll score 15 points in a quarter.
Right.
But you're going to be hard pressed to find anybody you love here. I'll throw one more guy at you. Not big, but not big on him. But Robert Covington, you know, or are we going to start seeing more consistent playing time from Covington? His price has come down quite a bit. I think I'd be willing to roll the dice that he gets back to seeing decent minutes here. Bojan Bogdanovic, that price is up above 6K. I'm not in love with anyone here, which makes you think, hey, maybe Bogdanovic is a viable option. I just don't think, and I'm sorry, Bogdan Bogdanovic. I just don't know if you're going to get what you need from him now that he's up close to $7,000. It's a tough position, man. Which, oh, by the way, makes Ben Simmons and Jason Tatum a whole lot more interesting. Tatum against the Golden State Warriors, he's got to be in play.
The thing I've always at least appreciated about Covington is that the peripheral stats give you a little bit of a boost from time to time, but he hasn't had those necessarily on a regular basis. You've seen some outliers of 5 steals or a couple of blocks or a handful of blocks, but he's not doing it on a regular basis. Would love and prefer to see that, to trust him a little bit more, but 4,800, to your point, is a cheap enough price point that maybe there's some upside there.
And if you want big numbers, or sorry, big minutes, PJ Tucker is a viable option.
All right. And
he's very rarely actually good.
That is fair, but we do have the looming, it's Capella out, right? He's definitely out.
Correct.
Yeah. So Capella out with a concussion, right? Got it. So PJ Tucker and other front court mates will have to figure out how to fill in that time. Power forward, assume Anthony Davis is playing. I don't see anything saying that he won't be. I think he's, as of right now, probable if that designation still existed in the NFL. He's expected to play, according to Kyle Goon of the Orange County Register.
Kyle Goon?
Goon.
Is that it?
That's Goon.
That's fantastic.
Kyle Goon of the OC Register reporting.
Dude, that's incredible.
Good times. Sabonis at 8,700. Jesus. Tatum.
Where did you hear it? From the Goon.
From the Goon. And he has to have a fan base that's called the Goon Squad, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah. And
if he doesn't, he just has to create it. Like, he just has to make it happen.
He's in a band too. You know what they call him?
The Goonies? Please tell me.
The Goon Tunes.
The Goon Tunes. He has an 80s movie, The Goonies.
Yes.
I think, is that the poster?
He's the one with the hideous face.
Do we have that? Oh, we don't have that up there. We were supposed to have that up there. We have movie posters out in the playroom, but we didn't get the Goonies. We have Back to the Future instead.
I've never even heard of the Goonies.
Oh, sweet Jesus, man!
I'm just kidding.
All right. I don't pull an EMAC often, and it hurts when I do. Like, I have to do some soul searching after the fact. Like, I have to sit down and think about my life and think about where I am in my life. But I almost went full EMAC.
We don't need that.
Anyway. Power forward beyond AD at the top. Sabonis, you mentioned before, has a ton of upside. This is a matchup against Houston. Do we have an over-under on that game? Houston, no, I still don't see a line on that. I see -7.5 for Houston, but no over-under as of yet. Do you have the same?
On Houston?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay. What do you like? Are there other names here? Small forward and power forward feel a little light to me, a little bit of question marks and trying to figure out where to spend the cash. What do you feel about a Blake Griffin maybe here, or do you play a Tatum at power forward to save a LeBron at small forward when you look at lineup construction right now?
Yeah, I'm cool with Tatum there. 100% all right with that. Draymond Green's price has gotten so ridiculously low that I can't help but think you've got to have some interest here. I mean, 5,300 is
Wow. I had to
insane,
keep scrolling. Yeah. I didn't even, yep.
right? I mean, that's really cheap. Domantas Sabonis particularly. I talked about this in the deep dive too. By the way, what's the promo code Early Bird for this one?
Yes. Yep.
Early Bird. You get the deep dive. It's premium content, but Adam and I switch off each day, and we put a ton of time into it each and every day. Of course, the projections, ownership, boom, bust, all of the tools behind the paywall as well. But as far as Bogdanovich goes, Sabonis goes, listen to this, man. He's averaging 38 minutes per game since Miles Turner hit the shelf, but he's averaging 1.13 fantasy points per minute on 24% usage, 21% rebounding, and 21% assists. He's third in the entire league with 21.5 rebound chances per game, and is third on the Pacers with 9 potential assists each night. Those are really encouraging numbers, Dan. And it just goes to show you that he's producing in almost every relevant statistical category. I love players like that.
Yep, that makes a ton of sense and makes him viable. I wonder, let me just check his price point over on Yahoo. $42 for Sabonis, which puts him on the higher end of the player pool here. AD is 52 for context, Blake Griffin 37. So where else do you go down to a PJ Washington? Do you make your way to a Markieff Morris at 4,700? Anybody else of interest?
So I guess we have to talk a little bit about Blake Griffin, right?
Oh, sure. I was hoping more Markieff Morris talk, but that's fine.
I can't do that for you, friends. Blake played 24 minutes last time. If it turns out that he's not going to be limited at all, like if he's going to get above 30, $7,100 is a good price point on him, and I wouldn't be afraid to get there. You mentioned PJ Washington. I don't have an issue with it. I don't love him, but value's pretty scarce on this slate. I probably don't see myself getting there a ton, but I get it. Anthony Davis just feels like the best option here at 9,600, like a mid 9K price point seems crazy, even alongside LeBron. But I like Sabonis quite a bit. I think you have a really high floor here. Not opposed to that in cash. Of course, I haven't built any lineups yet, but so that'll certainly, things could change. But I'd also say that Rui Hachimura is going to get in foul trouble quite a bit, or at least recently he has. But he should get the minutes when he's not, right? Like he's running to a bunch of he shot that 0 for 5 game, and then he had 5 fouls, and before that he played 35 minutes. I'd rather play him over PJ Washington just because he's rebounding pretty well. He's involved a little bit as a passer, but he's getting shots up, and his usage is, I think last time I looked, it was around like 25%. Let me just tell you real quick, because he's averaging like 6 rebounds per game, which is solid. His usage, no, 20%, only 20%. But if you're playing 35 minutes, 33 minutes, what does it matter at that price?
Makes sense to me. Any love for TJ Warren? I know Sabonis and Warren are vastly different players, but 6K price point or therein for TJ on this slate in the matchup with the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, I don't think it's terrible. He's going to play 31 to 35 minutes, you would think. That's pretty much where he's fallen recently. I know earlier in the season he was getting like 38 minutes, but I'm going to go ahead I think I have him right now at like 32.
Okay. Yeah, that seems reasonable.
32, but you could see more than that. And he has the ability to get hot. So yeah, at small forward and power forward are not very deep positions. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I just have a tough time ignoring Draymond Green at 5,300. I said this a lot upon the Stephen Curry injury. Like that doesn't make him and Clay. It doesn't make Draymond Green better. It makes him worse. He's not a scorer. He's not. He's not going to take control of the offense ever. He's good at directing the offense if you have Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson to get the ball to, in a half court. But that's a lot different. Like him, you're not going to see him bring the ball up the court and just completely – it's not going to happen. So it doesn't help him. He needs some good players out there to be really good. But 5,300 is still pretty viable.
Makes sense to me. And to point out Let's see. Green on FanDuel is 6,900, and on Yahoo he's $27. So I think DraftKings shakes out to be your best value. MPE helps obviously with power forward and forward eligibility, but still a decent price point over there on Yahoo as well. Let's close it out with center. You do have Towns at 10K flat. Embiid is 9,200. Drummond with Blake back in the lineup is at 86. Rudy Gobert at 81. Vucevic, Capella is out. Aldridge is 6,900. Some big names in some decent spots, but who do you like the best, and where do you see yourself turning?
Yeah, well, I think this is where you can pay up in some good spots. Karl Anthony Towns against Washington. It's funny because Towns, every day it's like we say he's too cheap. And then to some extent he lets us down, right? There have been a few spots where we've loaded up on him. Golden State, Detroit, he was 10K. San Antonio, 9,300. And he really is, outside of the first two monster games of the season, he's had 160-point game. But I'm not worried about it. I don't really see any reason to be concerned here. He's still one of the best players, best offensive players in the league, phenomenal rebounder. And I still see him being too cheap. Washington should not scare you. Actually, Towns you should be looking at Towns as one of your favorite plays on the slate. The Washington was also allowing more rebounds to the position than any other team, to centers, of course. They're allowing the fifth most assists, and I believe they're also allowing like top 5 in points too. Yeah, top 7. I'm not a big DVP guy, but when it comes to the center position, I think you can read into it a little bit more. And then offensive efficiency allowed to the position. They're allowing the third highest, ahead of only Washington and Golden State. So it's a very exploitable front court here. A couple of other guys, though. I guess we can start at the top, and then we'll jump down to the value because I think there's some interesting stuff. Embiid at 9,200, I'm just always going to have interest, even against Steven Adams. The truth is, Embiid has struggled in tough matchups. He has. Like, there's no two ways around it, and it pains me to say. Like, I don't like saying that, but it's true. He has struggled in difficult matchups, and it seems like a pretty common occurrence. But that's from an efficiency standpoint. Even in these tough matchups, he still finishes like 60 fantasy points because he rebounds so well and blocks shots, and he can move the ball and rack up assists. And the biggest thing is he can get to the line at such a ridiculously high clip. So even if Embiid shoots 5 for 20, you can still get 60 out of him. And, very seldom can you say something like that about players. So that stands out to me as something pretty interesting. I will say, of course, the Oklahoma City Thunder are pretty disciplined. They don't foul that often. They don't give up a ton of free throw attempts on the season. Free throw attempts allowed the 4th fewest in the league. But again, not too worried. That's a really great price. So Towns, Embiid, and Davis are 3 of my favorite plays here. Andre Drummond against Charlotte. This is another one that you really can't ignore. The Charlotte Hornets have been crushed by opposing bigs, particularly in the paint, where they're allowing the most points in the league. 56.2 points in the paint per game allowed from the Charlotte Hornets. If you're curious, you shouldn't be. Andre Drummond, pretty efficient in that category, right? He'll kill you around the basket. He's going to crush them on the boards. I don't see any way they escape this one alive with Andre Drummond. There's a lot here. Drummond this season, 2nd behind Giannis Antetokounmpo in points in the paint. So great spot. Just that one stat alone stands out as a pretty interesting one. All of those guys up top. I already talked about Sabonis. Man, you could make an argument for so many of these top priced options. They are in great, great spots. And then you've got Tyson Chandler. I don't know how many minutes he plays, but he's going to start this game, and I think he's viable. Willie Cauley-Stein's another one. The matchup against Boston, it's not that bad if Cantor's starting, or Daniel Tice. I don't really think it matters too much. Give me 25 minutes from Willie Cauley-Stein. He's been a +1 per minute guy this season. I'm all right with that. The only problem is the opportunity cost here. Like, there's a very good chance you're going to want to play 2 of these top centers, even on DraftKings, and only one of them has multi-position eligibility. Anthony Davis and Sabonis do. But then you've got Towns, Embiid, and Drummond, all of them at very friendly prices.
Yep, that makes a ton of sense to me, and that's probably the best place to leave it. We'll quickly check here. Karl Anthony Towns is $51 over on Yahoo. Let's see, it's Towns at 51, Drummond is 51, Embiid 47. So you save $4 with Embiid. And as I mentioned, Sabonis is just power forward eligible there and is $42. So take that with you as you plan your day. Obviously, MPE on DraftKings changed things a bit. Don't forget, I may mention tons of content available to you on our YouTube channel. So if you have not yet joined the 22.5 or so, 22,000 subscribers in subscribing, hitting that button, then you hit the like button on this video, you leave a comment, whatever you'd like to say, happy to read it. I think I'm the only one at Osmo other than social guys who actually read the comments, so bring it on.
Nonsense. I respond to every single
there, look at you. No. You on the deeper dive, you talk to chat or to comments?
Both.
Okay, look at you. Well, I'm proud of you.
Well, actually, no. Let me rephrase. In YouTube chat, I read all the comments in the deeper dive. I don't read the comments afterwards.
That's what I'm saying. That's where the fun is.
No. Hold on. Let me finish here, fella. Every single NFL strategy show and NBA strategy show, because they're in the morning and they actually generate comments, I go back and read them every day. The deeper dive, there's not much sense because nobody comments on that anyway because it's an hour. Well, it's over an hour before lock, and then there's live before lock, so no one comments on that.
But you could timestamp everything you got right and just point that out to everybody in the comment section. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
that seems like something you would do.
I'm not an asshole. Well, I am, but not that type of asshole.
Find the asshole Dave on Twitter at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D. Find me at Dan Strafford. The
Follow
promo code,
me, bitches.
There it is, at Osmo_com is the Twitter handle for Osmo. But the promo code is earlybird, one word, get to 50% off your first month. And follow Osmo_com, Osmo NBA, Osmo NFL, free giveaways constantly over there. And if you're watching over there on YouTube chat, make sure you're paying attention as well. We do unlock some free content from time to time based on interactions and likes, and maybe Dave will be giving away lifetime guaranteed.
No. Dude, that was wild. By the way, I interrupted you. It's at Dan Strafford.
That's true. Well. That's true.
I'm a good man.
There it is. After 6 years, who knows? But nonetheless, we will be back with you next Friday.
Say that again.
I'm trying to get through this, man. We're going to be back with you next Friday. Tomorrow you get EMAC and Adam on the Saturday morning show. It's Rendon and EMAC on Monday, getting you started for your work week in DFS. Tons of NFL content, live shows Sunday morning. We also have all those live shows on Friday and Saturday as well. So check all those out. And with that said, best of luck on Friday's 8-game slate. We'll see you next time right here on the DFS Early Bird, presented by Osmo.com.